Hello everyone, Blueknight here, and welcome back to another Ratchet & Clank Rift Apart video. So this past Wednesday, the embargo for the hands-off demo for Rift Apart was lifted, meaning all of the gaming sites like IGN, Game Informer, and a few others were shown some brand new footage for the game, and in Game Informer's case, they were able to score a couple of exclusive interviews with Insomniac Games, as well as showing off the game's intro cutscene. Not to mention, Insomniac themselves announced the following day that the game has officially gone gold, with this nice little animation of Rivet earning a gold bolt from the arena, which is accompanied by a trophy of, you guessed it, gone gold. What this basically means is that the game is ready to be put onto a disc and shipped out to all the stores in preparation for launch day. Now, there was a good bit that was showed off by a number of different sources, so I tried my best to compile everything I possibly could into this one video. Starting with the intro cutscene, well, actually this isn't the intro cutscene because it takes place right after the tutorial stage, which, according to the description provided by Game Informer, featured some Blarg enemies. But speaking of Game Informer, during their video concerning the opening cutscene, Marcus Smith stated that the parade was being held in celebration of all the accomplishments Ratchet & Clank have done over the years, with Skid appearing right here, who by the way is confirmed to be the alternate version character called Phantom that we initially heard about and briefly seen in the State of Play footage, and then there's Captain Qwark narrating during the celebration. Now, speaking of Captain Qwark, it has been confirmed by Insomniac's James Stevenson over on Discord that Jim Ward, who has voiced Captain Qwark since the beginning of the series, did not reprise his role in Rift Apart due to illness and has retired from the role, which I completely understand, and I do wish Ward luck with what's going on. But as someone who's been a fan of the series since almost the beginning, with Going Commando being my introduction to the series, it's going to feel so weird hearing someone else voice Captain Qwark for the first time in the history of the series. His work as Qwark will be missed. Now, we still don't know who is voicing him in Rift Apart yet, nor have we been given an opportunity to hear Qwark's new voice actor in the game. Anyways, things have been relatively calm for the duo since the events of Into the Nexus. Seeing as Ratchet & Clank haven't exactly had to save the galaxy within that time, Clanks had time to fix up the Dimensionator and was preparing to give it to Ratchet as a gift, so he could finally visit the dimension the Lombaxes fled to after Tachyon took over Polaris. And Ratchet seems kinda hesitant to even want to do so. I mean, think about it. Throughout the Future Saga, he's had multiple chances to be reunited with them, but he can never go through with it, knowing the threats each one posed. And it's that maturity that also carried over to Into the Nexus and now Rift Apart. The fact that the game starts off like this, reminding us longtime fans of what these two have sacrificed for each other, with the ending to A Crack in Time likely being the first thing that comes to mind when Clank leaves his position at the Great Clock to be with Ratchet, at least until he finds his own kind. This scene honestly feels like what was started in the Future Saga has come full circle for the duo in Rift Apart. It's really nice considering newcomers can get right into the game's story without needing to play any of the other games to understand it, while the older fans will already be up to speed with everything despite some of the shortcuts the team took with the story, with Marcus Smith stating that the older fans will catch some of the game's nudge nudge wink wink I'm in on this joke moments scattered throughout the game. But then Dr. Nefarious came along and just swiped the Dimensionator away from the duo before Ratchet even gets to say a thing about visiting his kind. This entire scene with Nefarious honestly brought a smile to my face, not just because of how excited Nefarious looked while waiting to see what comes out of the rift, only to be disappointed by a fish, then wonders if anybody even prints instruction manuals anymore, which is actually pretty funny because of how true it is. But simply because he felt a lot more expressive compared to our first look at him back at Gamescom 2020, where I initially thought his new eyes would take some getting used to and didn't seem to be as expressive as they are now. I mean, this is truly Nefarious, what else can I say? Besides the fact that he's extra shiny now, just look at the city reflecting onto his dome. The ray tracing is just top notch. But after Nefarious is disappointed that a fish came out of the rift and nothing else, he throws the Dimensionator against the controls barrels and winds up tearing up the platforms that Ratchet and Clank are on, leaving the duo to catch up to Nefarious via grind railing, and the shaky platforms on the way there even affects the players aiming for the weapons in this section, which is pretty cool to be honest. And what's even cooler is Insomniac showing off these cutscene to gameplay transitions. It's so good. At the end of Ratchet's section of the demo, we see the duo arrive at the same spot we seen them land in for the Gamescom demo. And as you can see, the two scenes are obviously different. The angles were changed, one of these Megalopolis citizens were switched out, Goons for Less is no longer present in this spot from what I can see, Mrs. Zircon is here, seemingly before we arrive in Rivets dimension, so now I'm a bit confused as to which dimension she's actually from. And before moving on to Rivets gameplay, there's a new screenshot seemingly showing Megalopolis, but what's off about it is that there's sand and explosive barrels present here. Now, what I would like to imagine is that once the Dimensionator gets damaged, it starts to merge another location with this one. Kinda like what we seen in the Gamescom footage where plants were all of a sudden popping up, so I'd like to think the same thing is happening here. Also, we can see Rusty Pete making a cameo appearance right here. Moving on to Rivets gameplay, we see her and Clank talking to each other and about the matter of improvising.
Improvisation is a skill you learn very fast.
I also have a talent for improvisation.
I don't know about you guys, but when I heard this, I was instantly reminded of the ending of the movie when Clank brought up improvising to Ratchet. We then noticed that ship travel has been confirmed to be returning in this game, with Mike Daly explaining this much further in Game Informer's interview with him, and from my understanding, you can choose whatever planet you want to go to next, just like in past games at most points in the game. However, when you visit a previously explored planet for all the extras and stuff, you'll play as the Lombax that first arrived there for story reasons, and that both Ratchet and Rivet will tag team the many planets throughout the galaxy. So I take it, once you play through each planet with both Lombaxes, assuming the two will likely have different paths, once you decide to go back to a planet later on, you'll have a choice to either revisit Ratchet's or Rivet's paths. Don't take that as confirmation, that is just my guess on the matter. But given that both characters play exactly the same, and that given all the experience, arsenal, and health upgrades are all synced between both Lombaxes, it just gives all the more reason to play as both characters, on top of all the extras to grab along the way. Like the customizable armor pickups for instance, they can be found in either pocket dimensions or on certain side paths scattered throughout the game, and these armor pickups can be awarded via arena challenges, according to Mike Daly. As we continue along with Rivet's gameplay on Torrent 4, her and Clank are looking for someone from Mort's from the State of Play demo, referred to as the Fixer, who just so happens to be this giant robot we seen from the gameplay trailer, but we'll come back to this. The first few enemies Rivet comes across here, she throws her hammer at them. Please tell me I'm not the only one who instantly thought of Marvel's 4 when I seen it return to her hand. I understand it acts the same as Ratchet's wrench, but you can't really argue the similarities here. I mean, when we think about it, they did get the composer of Thor Ragnarok to compose the music for this game. Kind of an interesting connection there. Close to the start of Game Informer's gameplay, we can spot a Volard from A Crack in Time quickly hiding inside of his building. In this same section, we are then introduced to Rusty Pete. Oh wait, this isn't Rusty Pete?
It seems fate has brought us together again, ma petite Rivette.
Guess fate really loves seeing you get your butt kicked, Pierre.
Ah! Yoo-hoo! Pirate mateys! Attack!
So this is actually Rivet's Dimension version of Rusty Pete, known as Pierre, who, instead of Captain Slag, is the captain of the robot pirates this time around. And going by Pierre and Rivet's quick interaction in that cutscene, this obviously wasn't their first encounter with each other. Now I do have to ask, since the robot pirates were created by Tachyon in Ratchet's Dimension to hunt down the Lombaxes, I wonder who created them in Rivet's Dimension. Maybe instead of Tachyon, it was Emperor Nefarious? That honestly might be too far of a stretch considering he's already got his own army, but I'm just throwing that out there. Throughout this part of the planet, we can see a few different robot pirates. There's the standard pirates with shields, and then the cannonball firing boss, which by the way did appear in Quest for Booty. There's this bolt crank from A Crack in Time in the ground, which Rivet can activate like Ratchet would a typical bolt crank. Activating this one grants Rivet access to a gadget known as the Hurl Shot, which is basically an upgraded swing shot capable of sending Rivet across vast distances. We currently don't know if Ratchet will be granted access to this gadget or not. It's something else we'll just have to wait and see on. There's quite a few different weapons featured in this part of the demo, with some of them returning from past games, like the Glove of Doom, while others are completely new, like the Drill Hound, the Lightning Rod, the Ricochet, which has a very unique pinball mechanic built into it that'll deal extra damage to enemies when timed just right, and then there's the Void Repulsor, which honestly reminded me of the Temporal Repulsor from Into the Nexus. I mean, just look at it, it's practically the same weapon, just revamped. Now, during the state of play, we learned that the hover boots would be returning in Rift Apart, but we now know that they're not just being used by Ratchet, but Rivet will also be able to use them as well. Now, during this section with the Fixer robot, we see he's going through a bit of an existential... I can't even pronounce that right. We see he's going through a bit of a pessimistic behavior, where he essentially believes that nothing can be fixed, not even himself, even at one point telling Clank to accept his brokenness.
I see a fellow broken one. You must accept your brokenness.
Is he talking about me?
Because of your arm? Don't listen to him, Bolts. If you're broken, so am I. And I think we're pretty awesome.
So basically, this whole grind rail section serves as its own awesome set piece, where Rivet and Clank are trying to think of a way to get through to this guy because they need his help for something. You'll also notice that Rivet referred to Clank as Bolts as part of this newfound bond between her and Clank, because all this time she's been doing things alone, unlike Ratchet, which makes for a very interesting parallel to his character. And according to IGN's Jonathan Dornbrush, as Clank tries to explain what's been going on to Rivet, she doesn't exactly do the best job at hiding how desperately she would love the opportunity to find other Lombaxes, and I honestly can't wait to see how that plays out. During Rivet's grind rail section, we can see these mutant birds and even the pool sharks from the Reimagining, and even the Puffoids from Planet Pokataru, which are from the Reimagining, are returning in the game, albeit these appear to be more fire-based compared to the ones in Ratchet's dimension. Now, there's one last thing I'm going to go over before ending the video, and that's concerning the Clank sections scattered throughout the game. According to Mike Daly during the Game Informer interview, he says that there's a dimensional cataclysm, and the structural supports between Ratchet and Rivet's dimensions are collapsing, and Clank, given his dimensional abilities from Nexus and the fact that he is of Zoni origin, which are creatures capable of interdimensional travel, but Clank obviously can't just travel wherever he wanted to, because, you know, he's a robot, not a pure Zoni. But either way we look at it, Clank enters that structural area between the dimensions and basically tries to repair these bridges and get the energy flowing again, so that way you can continue progressing through the game. And this energy, to Clank, looks like a bunch of copies of himself, and we have to get these lines of Clanks that Mike Daly compares to the game Lemmings from one end of the area to the other end. These Clank's physics properties can be changed by finding and plugging in these things called spheres of influence into the environment, to change these physics of not just the Clank clones, but also Clank himself and the environments to solve their respective puzzles. But anyways guys, that's going to do it for this roundup and breakdown of the recent Rift Apart previews. Like I said earlier in the video, there were so many sources putting out different things, I had to at least miss something. Oh wait, I actually did. As part of the game's accessibility options, you can slow down the game with a push of the button, and it does not affect any trophies you earn. So yeah, as always, if you have any thoughts or anything like that, please be sure to leave it all down in the comments section below. Also be sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell to stay up to date on everything Rift Apart as we approach June 11th, which is now less than a month away, and I'm super excited. Once again, thank you all so much for watching and for constant support. I've been Blueknight, and I'll see you guys back here next time.